we have some kind of introduction to the plant breeding. So you need to know, first of all, what exactly is plant breeding and why that is going to be important. Okay. So you might have heard about the Great Bengal famine, so which was caused by an important fungi that we have studied in the class 11th. I think most of you can remember that. It's called as Helminthosporium oryzae. Okay. So that was the important organism that they say that it's the responsible one to create this Great Bengal famine, and it's estimated to have caused deaths up to 4 million people. Now, also 85% of the world's food consumed by humans, again, plant-based. So all the organisms, directly or indirectly, in the food chain, in the food web, they are dependent on the plants as they are going to be the basic level producers. So they are the important organisms which is going to share its energy across the trophic levels where the herbivores feed on them. Certain carnivores, you can ask me, like the tiger or lion, they don't feed on these producers, but indirectly they are feeding through the herbivores. So there, those organisms, the herbivores, which gets the energy from the producers, are considered as the key industry animals to share the energy of these producers to the higher level, right? So at the basic level, you have the producers, the first trophic level, then maybe the 10% rule we may study later. The energy is being given to the second trophic level. Those can be considered as the herbivores. And these are considered as the key industry animals, where they convert the energy of these producers into a suitable form which can be used by the next trophic level. So these producers are going to be very, very important in the ecosystem. And obviously, if you think that the country like ours or any growing country where the population is going to increase, definitely there is going to be a demand for the food. So if the population is going to increase, and obviously the food production must also increase. And the agriculture is the most important key factor for our country's development, where 33% of India's GDP is contributed by it according to the syllabus, and it offers 62% employment to our population. But the only challenge is to produce enough food for this increase in the population. Okay, so these numbers and these bold letters, whatever I have in the lecture, it's exactly taken from the NCERT textbook. So not even 10% I have given extra in the slides apart from the images. Okay, so keep in touch with all these keywords. This will really help you at the end. Okay, so first we need to know what we do in the plant breeding. So plant breeding is something interesting, which is defined as the science that will change the genetic trait of the plants. Okay, the plant breeding is the science that will change the genetic trait of the plants in order to create desired plant types. So why do we need to change the genetic trait? Because to create desired plant types that are better suited for cultivation, that will better give you the yield, maybe I can say better yield, and finally resistance to diseases. So these three parameters are very, very important. So this is going to be the important objective of the plant breeding. So it is just defined as a science where we change the genetic trait of it in order to get the desired plant types, desired in the sense which may be best suited for the cultivation, which can give you the better yield, simultaneously resisting a lot of diseases. And it's not a kind of new technology. Okay, it's not something new. It's a very old one, where the earlier man used to crossbreed the closely related plant varieties to produce a new plant of desired trait. So the concept is actually, you can go back to some medieval period where they have started this kind of technique in order to create the new variety of plants. But right now, we incorporate some new techniques, some induced mutations, some new kind of technologies come into picture to do this. So this traditional farming, which we have been practicing for so far, is all good. But along with that, we need to incorporate the better management practices. Normally, we call it as BMP, and increase in acreage. I hope you understand what is increase in acreage. So the space which we contribute for the farming, along with the better management practices, will definitely help us increase the yield for the growing population. Okay. Again, only to some extent is going to be helpful if you do not involve a technology in it. So now the important person in India who had started using some atomic gardens, the gamma radiation induced gardens, who actually took, or maybe who actually uplifted the country's economy in terms of agriculture by introducing new methodologies. And it's none other than MSS, that also we have spoken long back. So Dr. MS Swaminathan, we also have MSSRF, this research foundation, and who is considered as the father of green revolution in India. So if generally they ask you father of green revolution, then who is he? In general, if they ask you who is the father of green revolution in general, so not specifically in India, then whom would you fix as? Yes, you haven't studied it. I think I have got his name in the beginning of the lecture, some 10-15 days back when I discussed. I think someone answered. I think Sarvesh answered it. Or someone answered, yeah. Okay, so join both. So Norman E. Borlaug. Okay. So he is the father of Green Revolution, and the father of Green Revolution in India, MS Swaminathan, who says generally the future belongs to the nations with grains, not with guns. So the development of several high-yielding varieties of wheat and rice, especially he focused on it in the year 1960s, which led to the increase in the food production in our country. So this time period is where he played a very important role in overcoming the struggles that we had faced, and hence we give such title to him. Okay, so in the first slide, according to the exam point of view, what is important is just these two lines. So which two factors can actually increase the yield, and that's not up to a greater extent, are these two, the better management BMP plus increase in acreage. But still some kind of techniques had to be involved, some kind of strategy. So that's what we are going to discuss in this chapter. So something has to be introduced. And you need to know about two important personalities. And I don't think anything else is important here. And maybe in the very first slide, just the GDP values or percentage employment that's offering to the population. So we didn't get any questions so far, but better just have an eye over it. Okay, just type yes if the introduction is clear. Shall I move to the next slide? So this is again not something new. The plant breeding, there is nothing but the purposeful manipulation of plant species in order to create desired plant types that are better suited for cultivation, better yield, disease resistant, the same thing. And conventional plant breeding, as I have told, thousands of years since the beginning of human civilization, we have the recorded evidence of plant breeding dates back to 9,000 to 11,000 years ago. So that's not that scientific data, but you can understand that. Now we had spoken over the classical plant breeding, where we just do the crossing or hybridization of the pure lines. And obviously, after doing it, we need to select those plants which should meet all these criteria. So number one is about increased crop yield, the quality, tolerance to environmental stresses. That's why we said in the beginning, the unfavorable conditions, there is like salinity, extreme temperatures, drought, and finally resistance to the pathogens, increased resistance or tolerance to the pest. And obviously these plant breeding programs are carried out by both government institutions and also the commercial companies. Okay, so there are many companies, even in Bangalore, so many places who are working towards the crop improvement program, and they tie up with the government institutions in such a way that they work together. And most of the students are also involved in such kind of projects. Okay, so now coming to our topic of today, that is the main steps in the breeding to create a genetic variety of a crop. So from now on, every point is important. So far, it's like the general information or the introduction, why we need to do this. But now for your examination point of view, every point is very, very important. Sometimes, or maybe for sure, this upcoming internal test, if this is going to be included for your test, so far it's not confirmed, then definitely there'll be one question related to arrange the sequence. Okay, so exactly you need to arrange them. So first one is going to be collection of variability. So before starting any work, you need to have all the wide varieties of the plants in your hand, from where you need to select specific numbers. Say, for example, after you do this first step, then you have to go for evaluation and selection of parents. Then you need to cross hybridize among those selected parents, after which you need to finally select and test the recombinants. Which recombinants? Superior recombinants. And you need to find their ability. Say, for example, if it can be grown overall the regions of India, can it sustain the different climatic conditions? The different zones may have different soil conditions, and there would be some institute in India who can release it officially, and it goes for the commercialization finally. So just copy these points in your notebook and then just type yes. After which we need to discuss on every point. Before going into this, just take down these 5 important steps, and the order is very, very important. And as usual, we'll have some 2, 3 keywords for each of the statements mentioned here, and then yeah, that's it for today. So now the first step is the collection of variability, as we have discussed already, where you need to have a complete set of varieties in your hand, including the cultivated improved varieties, because already in the market you have some improved varieties, and there could be some improved varieties which are not cultivated because of some reasons, or it might be a very old variety which we call as old local or desi varieties. Sometimes it might be stopped at the final stage where, because of certain reason, it's undistributed. Maybe the market value have come down, but still it's there with the plant breeders. Some species are like whatever right now we consume is all completely the domesticated varieties, where you have something called as wild varieties from which you would have got this. Okay, so the wild varieties, actually, what is so special in this wild varieties is maybe they don't have the property of better yield, but they are highly resistant. That's the important feature of the wild species. So these wild species are going to be highly resistant to a wide varieties of the diseases caused by the insect pest. Okay, but maybe you need to cross them with the existing varieties so that to have also the better yield. That's also important. So this step is going to be the root of any breeding program, where you can have all these options in mind. Suppose if you are going to be involved in such processes of plant breeding, then you need to keep all these points in the mind before starting the process. Actually speaking, from the year 1971, under the guidance of IBPGR, International Board of Plant Genetic Resources, they have planned, what they have planned is to set up at least a kind of library in every country where you have all these varieties in the form of seeds or in any form of storehouse like. So this IBPGR had set some kind of libraries overall the globe. Maybe in a country, you may have some 2-3 libraries. Even in our country, we have 2 collection centers. One is ICRISAT at Hyderabad. Maybe in your free time, you can check what are these. Maybe this is not for your examination point of view. Maybe you can check in free time. And NBPGR again. So ICRISAT and NBPGR are the 2 collection centers in India which had been set to store all these kind of varieties. So it means what? Basically, I am having the entire collection of all the diverse alleles for all genes. How? Because suppose, say for example, I store this variety, and this variety, basically, if I say it's a seed, then that will have its own DNA. And maybe this you consider as the variety number 2, that will have its own DNA. So basically, I am having the entire set of genes with diverse alleles of a given crop. So crop number 1 is going to have some 15 varieties. I cannot store the DNA of all these 15 varieties practically. Okay, instead of that, I store them in the form of a seed, and obviously a seed is going to have inside the DNA, and that particular variety will have that own original allele content in it. Similarly, I have all these varieties in my library where I have actually stored all the different forms of the DNA with its own speciality. And such type of collection is what we call it as germplasm collection. So the entire collection of either plants, or here I have shown seeds. Maybe you can have the entire collection of plants also, but that cannot be stored for a longer period of time. So the entire collection of plants or seeds having all the diverse alleles for all genes. Okay, maybe let us take the number of genes which are present in this variety is going to be 100, and it will have its own allelic form. That's why it's variety 1. Maybe if the same genes with some other allelic form, if present, then maybe it's a variety 2. So instead of collecting the gene sequences of all these varieties, I'm having all these varieties in the form of the seeds. It means indirectly I'm going to have all the diverse alleles for all the genes of a given particular crop. So that it is easy for me to select a specific varieties of it, and then it will be easy for me to proceed with the hybridization experiment. So that's why in the beginning I said you that if you are going to start with the process, then firstly you need to have what is all right now present, that I need to have it in my hand. Then I have to check for the demand. Then I'll have to select which I have to use. Okay. So yeah, I think that's it with this slide. So this point is very important, the root of any breeding program, and what are the options you have so that to have a collection, like which type of species you can collect. So these are the list. You can either have in your hand the improved varieties, which is right now present, or maybe which had been stopped because of some low market values, or you can have all those wild varieties, everything in your hand. And let us assume all these are nothing but the image is referring to that. And this complete collection of all those crops, where indirectly we have all the diverse form of alleles in the gene of the genes in our hand, is what we call it as germplasm collection. And who had decided to set this up as IBPGR. And in India, we have two germplasm collection centers. They can write it as germplasm collection center, one in Hyderabad and one in New Delhi. And this image refers to how you collect the variety. Maybe if you are going to do a process in this area, then obviously it is mandatory to select the varieties from all over the region. Maybe this region, the plant variety is not going to grow with a better yield, maybe because of the drought condition or because of the soil condition. We cannot confirm that if this plant is not growing well in this region, it will not grow well in any of the regions. So we cannot judge the efficiency of that particular plant. Okay. So you need to have all these in your hand and then check with your land region and your climatic condition. Then you proceed in the next step, which one to select. So get on all these points. And if you're done with it, just type yes, we'll move to the next step. So let us have a crop one here. And if I say rice, then the question is, do you have only one variety in the rice crop, or you have n number of varieties? If you take basmati at least, then you have hundreds or more than that, actually speaking. So you may have n number of varieties for this particular crop. And this variety, if I say, it means it has its own allelic forms for certain genes, which is giving a special character to the variety, right? Even if I go to the shop right now and then ask for the basmati rice, then they ask me what type in it. Similarly, you have n number of varieties which will have a specific allele for the gene sequence. So similarly, you have a lot of allelic forms for a given crop in terms of different varieties. So what am I going to do is, I'm just going to have a collection of plants or the seeds having diverse alleles of all the genes for a given crop. So if I have to do some hybridization experiment to bring in some new improvement in this crop, then I need to have all these in my collection, which are going to be diverse in the allelic forms for all the genes. Then that collection is what is called as germplasm collection. Maybe it is one example for ex situ conservation. You have conservation into two types. One is in situ conservation and one is ex situ conservation. In situ conservation is like preserving or conserving them in that area itself. Suppose if one organism is growing in this region, then if I'm going to conserve it in its own habitat, then it's called as in situ conservation. But what am I doing? I'm just basically, it's going to help in one other purpose where I can have a kind of library where I can access to all of these if I need. So basically, I store it, right, not in their own habitat, but in my own collection center. And maybe you can consider this as ex situ conservation. Not only in the form of, I think you would have studied already something about the seed banks and all, okay, types of seed banks. So right now, in this particular topic that they had focused is collection of plants and seeds. But you have so many other methods of collection also. Like you have gene banks where you can also store them like a kind of cryopreservation. Okay, so you can use some kind of technique to store them, but basic idea is this. So is it clear now? So AgriSat in Hyderabad and NBPGR in New Delhi. So this is how you can think how a library of germplasm collection will look like. Now coming to evaluation and selection of parents. So you need to start with a specific parent. And first of all, you need to identify, maybe you have those many collections in which you need to identify from whom I have to start with. So firstly, you need to identify the plants with desirable combination of characters, and the selected parents are multiplied and used for hybridization. So next step is going to be hybridization. Before that, you are going to select which parent I am going to use. So one important example that I have given, and I have already told about how to select the parents. Maybe if I'm going to select one good variety, maybe from this region, as I have told you already, as this plant is not going to grow well in the other regions, I cannot come to a conclusion that it is not going to grow well in my region too. If it's going to have some special property in it, and if it's not going to grow in the particular region, then it means maybe the region is off into some problem, not the plant. And if I'm giving its apt environment, if it's trying to grow well, then obviously I can use that particular plant. This is one small example that you can relate, how you select the parents. Okay, so further you have a lot of steps in it, but still this is one basic step, but that you don't have to focus. Just focus on these two lines itself. You don't get any deeper question in this particular step. Okay. Maybe a few more examples if you want, then I can show like after I select that particular parent, I've told you need to evaluate it. I'll just tell you how they actually evaluate it. Firstly, they try to select the parent and then they grow with a controlled environmental condition with some good protection. Then they try to test that particular parent with some stressful conditions, like say, for example, pathogens. So if it is able to grow well in the presence of pathogens or not. And next parameter, they would take into account the salinity and then the drought conditions, maybe sometimes the snow. So these are some examples how they actually select and evaluate the parent. So I was just telling that even if the plant is not going to grow well in any of the regions, but if it's going to have some superior characteristics, if you feel, then you take that, because you will have that in your collection center, then you try them growing at various conditions, like first try providing a good, better condition for it, and then you may check it with some stressful conditions, and finally have a kind of checklist based on the response what you have got for that particular plant. Maybe you can check for other biochemical characteristics too, like cellulase, it's going to produce an orpectinase, protease. How about the salinity? How about the drought conditions? No, all those you can have a kind of checklist. So is that clear for all of you, this step? But you don't need all these for your exam. You just need only those 2 lines. But this is how they actually do. So just type yes if the second step is clear. Again, I'll go back to the slide. So coming to this important step, the cross hybridization among the selected parents, because you have selected the parent and then you have evaluated it and then finally you're going to cross it. Say, for example, you can understand better right now what two parents I'm going to cross. According to the NCERT, according to the module I have given as such, maybe if one parent is going to have high protein quality, but it is not disease resistant, then obviously the other one, if it's going to have the disease resistance property, then basically I'm going to cross them both. And you know what kind of technique I'm going to involve it in this particular step. So what are the steps in cross hybridization that we have studied in genetics? Some two important steps we have studied, but apart from that, you have also some other steps, but two important steps are very important. So how do they do this? The cross hybridization, if I need to cross hybridize, okay, something like emasculation, bagging, rebagging, tagging, all those. Okay, so dusting process, the same thing here, I'm not going to repeat it. But very important thing is, according to the NCERT that they had given, this step is time consuming and tedious process. Again, I'm saying this could be a definite question in the internal test. They would definitely ask you which is the time consuming tedious process. So this is definitely you're going to get this question. If not in the upcoming test, definitely in the Allen test you will get it. Okay, and you know what kind of process that is going to involve dusting. So here is where one good example that I have given, that you need to go for the cross hybridization, where if you will consider one plant as the low yielding plant with high disease resistance, then maybe you can take another variety with high yielding and low disease resistance. And obviously, you know, there is going to happen something called as heterosis, which can be otherwise called as hybrid vigor in the first generation. And don't think that immediately you will get this result. Okay, it will take a lot of time. That's what I've told here, that not necessary that the hybrids to combine the desirable characteristics in a single take. Usually, one out of this frequency process shows the desirable combination. Again, you have to check who is that. You need to find out. Okay, again, it takes a lot of time. Okay, so that will come in the next step. So this is only about just the cross hybridization. Next, you will need to again select from them, test them again to find the superiority combination. So that we will deal in the next step. So first finish this point. Maybe you can just write the topic, some important example according to the syllabus, and note down this point, time consuming, and maybe the frequencies. So this one, it's not that mandatory, the same logic with some different example. That's it. Maybe you can just make a note on hybrid vigor, heterosis that you get in the F1 hybrid. Yeah, so if you are done with this, then just type yes. So if you will check some important terms related to the next step, that is about the selection and testing of superior recombinants. So obviously we have to find out who is going to be the better one, because always in the next generation after you cross the parents, you may not get the better variety. You need to search for it. Again, you have to try for a long time. Okay. And that's why they say this is the time consuming and the toughest process in the plant breeding steps. Now coming to the next one, where you need to select the best out of the first generation or maybe in the successive generations. What they say is the selection process is crucial to the success of breeding objective. This is where your success is. The way how you test the further generations is going to be very, very crucial step for the whole process what you are looking for. And this is going to require a careful scientific evaluation of the progeny. So it means you need to check each and every product that you have got. And this step is going to yield you the plants which are going to be superior to both of the parents, and that's why you say this is going to be the hybrid vigor. Now think of a condition you have got. We are not going to deal much about how are they going to test. Okay, so maybe by looking upon the physical appearances, the morphological characteristics, or the products what you are looking for, based on some analysis, they have finally come to a conclusion that this is going to be a superior variety than the parents. Now, can someone fill this blank? For several generations till they reach so that characters will not segregate in the progeny. What are you supposed to do for several generations till they reach what? So that the characters will not segregate. This is the keyword. Okay, self-pollination you do for several generations until they reach what? Suppose if you have got the best one, then you are supposed to do selfing for several generations till they reach exactly the uniformity, that is the homozygosity. I think this we have studied already in the genetics. So once you have got the plant with superior nature to both of these parents, then obviously you are supposed to maintain it by going for the selfing process till they reach the uniformity so that the characters will not segregate in the progeny. So this is how they select the generation. Suppose if these are the parents in the F1 generation, you have got them, then they are successfully bred. Finally, see here, F8 generation. In between, you may have these kind of possibilities, right? Then you need to eliminate them. You need to eliminate them until you get the whole generation of plants where you have a kind of pure line. If you measure this, then you have capital A, but small b. So you need to check for the character what you are expecting for, and if it's not going to develop a pure line for that particular character, basically I'm trying to say if that particular allele is not expressing in the desired format of what you're thinking, then you need to omit them from the population. Again, you select these. Then again, you go for the F3 generation. Some plants you may again have with some undesirable characters, throw them out. So, for example, you may get in the 8th generation after the continuous selfing, these crops. It means that you have got a pure line where the characters will not segregate. If you will go for the next generation at this step, these are called as cultivars. So cultivar is a plant with desirable characteristics that can be maintained by propagation. Now you can do the same, some propagation techniques, like maybe if it's going to have some tubers or bulbs or something like that, then maybe you can opt that under the suitable conditions. So that's why they say that the step is going to be very critical or crucial. You don't have to explain any of these steps. So it is just for your understanding. Even you don't have something called as cultivar in your syllabus. So just know that you are going to select the best out of the offsprings. Maybe from the F1 generation, you may have some 4-5 plants. Out of that, 2 may be proper. Remaining you have to eliminate. Further, you are going for F3, F4, and finally, in one point of time, you are going to get all the crops in the desired manner. Then that means maybe it had reached the state of uniformity. From there on, you can proceed with the next step. So at this point, at the final stage, you may have the plant with pure lines, right? And this is what we call it as cultivars. Now what you have to do, this is the new cultivar what you have got. Then you may already have some kind of existing cultivars. You have to compare them and then you have to commercialize it finally. So you just take these steps alone. Maybe anyways, I'll send the slides if you want just before the test. Definitely I'll make sure that you get the slides. Even for molecular basis, I have not sent it. So if anyone requires the slide for the cross verification, just text me person so that I won't forget. So just take all these important lines and highlight them and just let me know. I'll go to the next step. And in between, if you get some doubts like how will they come to know whether it's going to be a heterozygous or homozygous plant, even if they're going to have the desired two characteristics, then what will you do in that case? Suppose in between any of the generations, you may not know physically. Yeah, so basically you have to go for a test crossing by which you can estimate the genotype of it. Correct. So the next step is again the one more testing of the final cultivar. So finally, I've got something called as cultivar, right? So again, you need to see this is in terms of the characters. You say that they are going to be the best one, but finally you have to check in different conditions. Okay, we are expecting some character, and then you have got that in the previous step, but you need to finally confirm. That's where this testing lies, and finally you release it, commercialize it after comparing it with the existing cultivar. So what you have to do, you have to grow that progeny in the research field, record their performance under ideal fertilizer, irrigation, and management practices. And better, one more check you can do for the quality, disease resistance, and all those. But these two are very important. And very, very important is in the testing, you need to make that particular crop grow under at least 3 growing seasons at several locations in the country, which can represent all agroclimatic ones. So this is how they try growing it in various regions of the nation and test their ability, whether they're able to grow in the southern belt or maybe it's able to grow well in the northern belt. I think the slide which I have sent related to the sugarcane, I think you would have read that. So which one is better to grow in the North India? You have two varieties, right, of the sugarcane. So which one better grows in the northern region, but it has some kind of disadvantages. So which Saccharum species is that? Okay. So Saccharum barberi is the one to grow well in the North Indian region. So similarly, you have to check. And finally, what you have to do, you have to compare with the best available local crop cultivar. So in that particular region, what is actually found with better quality so far? That is what is called as check cultivar or reference cultivar. Now we have got some new cultivar, right? Just compare this with this. And finally, who has the right to release the variety or who has the power to release this cultivar and commercialize it is the ICAR, okay, Indian Council of Agricultural Research. So finally, they are the one to release it and then send it to the market. So this is not that complex like your previous steps. So it's very simple. So finish this and then let me know.